My nasal labias. You can see them from fucking space. Great Wall of China and my nasal labias. That's what you can see from fucking space. It's Thursday. I'm Andrew Johnston. Topic this week is bombs, not the over Baghdad variety, which I don't know if that's insensitive or not. Frankly, I don't give a fuck, because I'm the bad boy of comedy. No, I'm not. Bombs of the comedy variety. So a comedy bomb, what does that mean? That means when you're not doing well, when someone is not doing well, when they're not meshing with the audience, when someone's visibly flailing on stage, or just when it goes terribly and no one wants to look them in the eye, and they don't want to look anyone in the eye when they got off stage. Doesn't happen to me very often anymore. In fact, pardon me, it really never happens to me, but it has. I think that there are two causes of bombing in comedy. And the first, and I have stories about, obviously, both of these varieties, but the first variety is when you're miscast for something. When the comic in question is in front of an audience in question, and they never should have been booked for that gig. The most spectacular kind of a miscasting bomb that I've ever had was, I remember it very well. It was in the winter of 2008. It was at George Brown College here in Toronto, and I was booked to host. Now, George Brown College in Toronto, it's like it's what I thought was sort of like not a finishing school, like not like somewhere where, ladies went to learn how to balance books on their head, but it's like a school where they would have HR program where you would do your university degree kind of thing, or you would get a sort of more general higher education, then you would go and you would sort of learn a higher end trade. That's what I thought the school was. That's not, as it turns out, what it was. And it's right in the heart of Toronto. It's right in downtown Toronto. Anyway, I just thought, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be just civilized, higher minds. That was more like dangerous minds. Oh, that's clever of me. It was an entirely, how shall we say, urban audience. And it was also an urban bill. And I say urban and fucking, suck a dick if that offends you. I'm calling it like it is. I'm a fucking gay comedian, and that was an urban audience. And so that's what that was. And it was gruesomely miscast. So I guess it was supposed to be a little bit of a diversity sampler, as I call these things. Sometimes you'll get college gigs where they'll book like me and a woman and a black guy, and that'll be like the like diversity sampler, and it's a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea. Well, it was certainly then. This is before I knew how to do crowd work. Now, if you come and see me and I host, I talk to the audience if I'm hosting. I talk to the audience and I gently roast them, or sometimes not so gently roast them. In any event, I did not know how to do crowd work at that point, so I just went on and did my very, very limited act at that point. I might have had 20 minutes if I had, one. And of course, the first thing, my opener would have been something like, something like, I am what Jamaican people call a chichi man. They have a lot of adorable names for it down in Jamaica, for gay people, that they call them until they lynch and roast them in the village square. It's a lot of steel drums and jerk chicken before that. Anyway, so that was like the first thing in my mouth. People laughed at that, and then after that cat was out of the bag, just about 300 first generation Canadians of West Indian. That's the West Indies is the Caribbean. That's what they call it. Anyway, people of that sort of descent booing me, solidly booing me for the entire time that I was up. And because I was hosting, I needed to keep on coming up and be like, all right, please welcome your next guy. Every time I came on, they were just and violently booing me. It was pretty perilous. But that was also the first gig that I had where it was a disaster, but I didn't take it personally. I was just whoa. Afterwards, I was like, that was exhausting. I'm gonna go and have sushi now. And I did. I just hopped on the streetcar and went home, had sushi. Probably, I don't know, it's 2008. What did I do? I probably watched a VHS recording of the previous week's Lost. That is one breed of bomb. Another very distinct breed of bomb is when your expectations are set very high and they're not met. And so an example of that would be, and this was years ago as well, I was booked to do a show here in Toronto called Homo Night in Canada. And it was a gay show at Buddy's on the Saturday of Pride. At Buddy's in Bad Times Theatre, it's a full facility theater. I think the only one of its kind in North America that presents an entire subscription season of queer theater. And on the Saturday of Pride, they had a comedy show. I did this for the first time, 2007, I think this was, and I just thought, I had heard about it. I heard that it was a fantastic night, and it was going to be all my people. It was going to be all like a GLBT crowd. And I just was so excited for it. I just thought it was going to be just shooting fish in a barrel. I just thought it was going to be just amazing. And it was not. It was really not. It was a lot of stone cold gaze, like, but like my frequency that I already had in my head was just like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna kill so hard. Oh my god, it's gonna be amazing. Oh, and then it was just, ugh. It just went into complete autopilot, and it was just a disaster, and I was just like sweating. And that's another thing. I think that oftentimes you can explain bombing. Bombing is easily, like, it's a result of disconnect. It's when you're just absolutely not present. When I still see comics bombing, it's because, well, now you're just not even on autopilot. Autopilot means when I see a comic do this and they're just completely disconnected from the audience that they're in front of, they're just like blah 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 blah. But I know what you're thinking, blah blah blah, and it's just silent, and it's just aggressive silence. Like, that's what bombing is, when the audience is aggressively silent to someone who's completely disconnected from the situation that they're in. So that does not happen to me anymore. Like, I don't bomb anymore, because I will stare that fucking audience. I will stare those fire-breathing mongoloids in their face, and I will say, "What's up? What's up?" And I will forge some sort of a connection. And then you will never bomb. Or maybe it won't go well, but I'll never be the worst one on the show. I'll never be the worst one on the show. The only instance that really happens when I talk about your expectations, the only instance that it really ever, is mortally injuring anymore is when you're doing what we call showcases. So for comedians, showcases are basically like auditions. It means that you're, in 7 minutes, you need to go up and showcase for, this very, like, client. Usually it's a festival. Usually it's a real, gatekeeper of comedy. And you have to go on stage, and in 7 minutes, despite all these variables that you cannot control, namely the audience, you don't know who the fuck's going to be there. You don't know what's going on in that audience. But you need to do this very measured set within, like, a frame of time, and there are so many variables that you cannot control. You can't control when you're on in the lineup. If you need to follow someone who, like, just catches a flow or whatever. Like, if someone is just like on an upswing, you need to follow that. You're fucked. You're fucked. If there's a drunk bitch in the audience, which there was at my last fucking showcase, which, Jesus Christ, I almost clitorectomized the bitch. If there's that, there's nothing you can do. And so that when your expectations, when you need to do a showcase and your expectations are so that it's like, this needs to be perfect. Audiences can always smell fear and desperation. They're like dogs. They're literally like dogs. They're literally like dogs. They just want snouts and entrails in their bowl, and they lick their own assholes and just, but they can also smell fear. They can smell desperation, and nowhere is that more fostered than in a showcase situation. Bombing sucks. It happens to everyone. No one circumvents it. Anyone who's thinking about getting into comedy, thinking that, I'll just like do it a couple of times and it will go well, and then I'll just be, and it'll be rapturous, and the audience will come to see me, and I'll never bomb. No, you'll bomb. No one gets to circumvent that. So it is a necessary evil. It's an unavoidable evil, and yeah. Anyway, and it sucks. It sucks, but it doesn't happen to me very often anymore.